What is up, my fellow quirky folks? Today I'm going to take a bit of your time to talk about Captain America. Steve Rogers is gone, but we are still getting a Captain America 4. Everyone knows that this one is going to star Sam Wilson as the Flying Star-Spangled Man. The mantle has been passed on to him, and so far, he has been proving himself worthy of it. But is there a chance that Steve Rogers could also return to the MCU? Back in January, Deadline announced that Chris Evans is cleaning the dust off of his Captain America suit, and he is expected to reprise the role in the MCU in some form.
I'm Captain America. I thought Captain America was on the moon.
He said a heartfelt goodbye to the gig when he finished filming Avengers Endgame. But if he does want to return, then I'm sure that all MCU fans are going to welcome him with open arms. He got a nice exit out of the MCU. But can he come back without ruining his sweet ending?
No, I don't think I will.
Well, that's what we're here to discuss. You'd be surprised, but there are multiple ways for him to return after what happened in Avengers Endgame. So let's look at a few of them. First up, he could continue after The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Nice job, Cap. Thanks.
We don't know what happened to old man Steve Rogers after Avengers Endgame. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier gave us absolutely no answers about it, but it did suggest how people of the MCU think that Steve was actually on a secret moon base.
I'm Captain America. I thought Captain America was on the moon.
Now what if that is true? What if he is monitoring Earth from a base on the moon? And when the going gets tough for Sam, he could return to the fight as an old man just like he did in the comics. This could happen in Captain America 4 or some other MCU project. But if you don't like this theory, then let me suggest this second one. Steve returns from his new timeline. Seeing old man Rogers may be great, but you can't argue with the fact that seeing a younger Steve who has experienced Endgame would be better. It would be safe to say that he actually retired in his prime. Yes, he had done a lot in the MCU, but I just can't shake the feeling that he would have done so much more. I mean, he just wielded Mjolnir and almost took out Thanos on his own. So he could have gone on for a longer period of time, just like Thor. But the contract of Chris Evans was done, and Endgame needed the OG Avengers to pass on the mantle. So Captain America was given a retirement. Now if he does return, then it is really important that his Endgame exit is not spoiled. And for that, I've got a pretty good theory. I believe that Steve Rogers will return to take on Kang the Conqueror in a big event like Avengers 5. Loki set up Jonathan Majors to be the next big bad of the MCU.
See you soon.
Now we're gonna see the true variant of Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And from there on, he'd become the villain of the new Avengers movie. He's going to wreak havoc on the Avengers. In fact, we could see a Council of Kangs doing that against the Avengers lineup. So to take on the Master of Time, the Avengers might need a man out of time. Steve Rogers created an alternate timeline when he decided to live his life with Peggy Carter. No one knows what Steve did during this timeline. Even when he returned to pass the shield to Sam Wilson, he did not tell him about his past. That's because his past actually involves Sam Wilson of the future. Young Steve Rogers was not done fighting, and someone from Sam's future might bring young Steve back from the alternate timeline to fight Kang.
Me.
That's how he might make his triumphant return in Avengers 5. Just imagine the look on the faces of Sam, Bucky, and the others when Steve shows up to save the day. He could have a "Bring me Thanos" moment of his own. It is here that Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson's Captain America, and Bucky could form a trio and blow our minds. And after defeating Kang, Steve could return to his timeline to continue his life with Peggy. That way, he'd grow old and meet Sam Wilson in 2023, just like we saw in Avengers Endgame. Because Steve's battle with Kang happens after 2023, old Steve couldn't have told Sam or anyone about it. If he would have done that, then the future wouldn't have happened as it was supposed to. This is the same reason why Doctor Strange did not tell Tony Stark about the winning outcome.
You said 1 out of 14 million we win, yeah? Tell me this is it.
If I tell you what happens, It won't happen.
That's why Steve also said,
No. No, I don't think I will.
old Steve could have actually fought beside Sam Wilson's Captain America in the past. And then later on, he became the one to pass on the shield to Sam's younger self. That would be crazy, don't you think? But if you don't like this theory either, then let me move on to number 3, a temporal remnant. This one is going to be derived from the comics. In the Death of Doctor Strange issue number 2, we had different versions of Doctor Strange throughout a timeline. You see, a version of Doctor Strange from the past arrives in the present day to investigate his own death in the current timeline. And this was possible through Temporal Remnant of Strange himself. Many, many years ago, the younger Strange had severed a week of his life from his own timeline. He literally cut off his lifespan. He kept this a secret from everyone and hid his temporal remnant away. This was his contingency, his backup plan in case he were to die. In the situation of his death, the temporal remnant could just emerge and deal with his affairs even after his death. Now this is a narrative that could also be used in the MCU. Maybe before taking the stones back in time, Steve could have made a deal with Doctor Strange to create his temporal remnant. He could have cut his lifespan by a week as a contingency for the future. He took a retirement, but if the world needed him once again, then his temporal remnant could just arrive into the scene. That way, the most popular version of Captain America in the MCU could be back again, and his exit from Endgame will not be retconned in any way.
It's beautiful.
But if this timey-wimey theory feels a bit confusing for the MCU, then let me bring in theory number 4, the Immortality machine.
Breakers are set. Emergency generators are on standby.
While trying to nail time travel, Hulk actually created an Immortality machine. Upon the first trial of time travel, Scott was sent back in time. But instead of pushing him through time, Smart Hulk pushed time through him. He came back as a baby, then a young boy, and then an old man before coming back as his former self. So maybe the current old Steve could be a part of this experiment too. He could be young again. Time could be pushed through him, and he could return to his Endgame prime. Maybe this is how Steve Rogers could return. This was done in the How It Should Have Ended episodes of Avengers Endgame as well.
Wow! I think you just invented immortality.
But because people could actually stay immortal by using this tech, the MCU may not use this plot device ever. Or maybe they could use to show us how Kang stayed so young and went on to become He Who Remains.
I'm older. I'm older than I look.
I guess we'd see about that. But things would become very convenient for anyone and everyone. And this immortality machine would diminish the true meaning of life. So I guess we may not get Steve Rogers back through this machine. But for my final theory, I'm gonna suggest a variant.
Oh, you gotta be shitting me.
We saw the same version of Steve Rogers for almost a decade. The only time we saw a different version was when Loki pretended to be Captain America in the Dark World or in Endgame.
Coordinate search and rescue.
On my way down. Coordinate search and rescue.
I mean, honestly, how do you keep your food shut?
But with the multiverse coming into play, we could get a new variant of Rogers in the future. He may not be a villain like Captain Hydra or something, but maybe he could be a bit darker and more brutal than the current one. Would you like to see a different version of Steve Rogers in the MCU? Or would you like the best version of Steve to return? I know that I want to see the Mjolnir-wielding Steve at least one more time.
No, give me that. You have the little one.
But do let us know what you want in the comment section. Hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up icon if you like this video. I'll be back with some more content that will make you ponder upon the MCU. Till then, goodbye and have fun!